Welcome to Common Ground series. Today I'm delighted to have Juliet Robertson here with me. These series are generally common with others, regardless of our age, our background, and just to draw out some of these things. And of course, when we think about what we share in common, we also notice what we don't share. That's often what happens. And we're going to focus on children. So my name is Marina, Robb, and I run an organisation called Circle of Life Rediscovery in southern England, and we do lots of training with people that work outdoors and many other things. And I'm delighted to have here Juliet Robertson, who is an educational consultant with expertise in play and learning in the outdoors and author of a couple of books. So thank you so much, Juliet, for joining us. Really excited to have you. So it's a very short format. It's only 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to get straight in there with first question is, what common values do you think underpin our general practice of working with children of all ages? What do we share? What would you say about that?
I always think values are an interesting place to start. And for me, I have three that I think are particularly strong. And that is one, caring, kindness and reciprocity. And when I use these, I'm thinking about not just caring, being kind and reciprocity in terms of human relationships, but also our relationship with more than human species and the wider world in which we live.
It's lovely. And in a way, what I understand is that those things underpin all of the work we're doing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what really helped me with my thinking over what really mattered was this book called The Common Cause Handbook. You're nodding away. It's a free download, and I would strongly advise people who, if they're interested in a values-based approach, to really look at that, because what's very interesting is that these sorts of values that are quite empathetic ones are in direct contrast to many of the wider political school ambitions, which is about ambition, achievement and success. And these values are on the opposite side of this sort of ball of values that are universal values to humankind. So quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I've looked at it in the past. It's very much around the intrinsic values versus the extrinsic values. And this seems to play out a lot in a whole educational approach, doesn't it? But we can't talk about that today. That will be another subject. So the next question is around what is the role of nature in our education? I mean, huge question, but really it's the times we're living in. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we can think of the role of nature in education in many different ways. Some people see it as a teacher, the third teacher. If you believe in the Reggio Emilia inspired approaches, it can be an approach whereby you say, this is a particular tool or an approach that can help me with my teaching. And for others, it's a place. It's a place where things make a bigger difference to what we say or how people think and feel. And I think very often in education, we miss the subtleties of place. We're very focused on people and we're very focused on experiences, but the value and understanding of how place can inform our practice is absolutely crucial, I think, in our current world. The discussions around climate, how we manage COVID-19, everything. If we start thinking about place much more, then we will I think, be much more rooted and grounded in our practice.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we share that we want the curriculum that children access to include nature as much as possible. And I wonder what we can learn from Scotland, if at all, in leading the way in bringing nature or the outdoors into mainstream education. Could you share something, your views on that, or what you see is happening that you think is helpful that we could learn from that?
Okay. If we just start specifically on the Curriculum for Excellence was introduced into Scotland in 2004, and outdoor learning was recognised as one of the themes within that. But our curriculum is not just about the experiences and outcomes. It starts with focusing on what are the Scottish values that underpin our society, which are wisdom, integrity, compassion, and justice. And from there, we've developed the 4 capacities, things like successful learners, confident individuals, stuff around true citizens. I forget the 4 off the top of my head. And then we have our curriculum design principles, which are very, very interesting and useful. Those are things like our curriculum should have challenge and enjoyment. There should be progression, depth, personalisation, coherence, choice, breadth as well. I think those are the main 7 that are involved. And to me, that's the curriculum. The experiences and outcomes after that, those targets and those benchmarks are based upon that foundation of rich, what should a quality curriculum come from, and what should our rationale for that be? So when it comes to education and the role of that, back in 2007, this document was produced. All of these are accessible via my blog. There's a blog post on Scottish national documents. And this one...
We'll be sharing that. We will make sure we share that with everybody. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this document starts by looking and linking the outdoors to that. When Curriculum for Excellence came on board 3 years later, which looks like this, one of the things that was mentioned was the value of green space, the value of nature, and the value of that in the context of our partnerships with wider organisations and things like that. But the real document that began to change matters was this one. So this is only an online document. You can still get it online. It's about practical guidance, and woven through this, when you read through the totality of it all, there is play woven into this, and there is nature. And
Juliet, can you just say the name of that, because it's hard to see on there, just for viewers?
It says Outdoor Learning, Practical Guidance, Ideas and Support for Teachers and Practitioners in Scotland. It came out in 2011, and I headed up the team that wrote that. So that's why I know that there's nature and play threaded through it, because I made sure. And this was backed up later on. Again, this document talks about the value of play, the value of nature, and the need for children to have contact, daily contact with nature. Now, that may sound very aspirational, but there is no point in having a vision statement for which, and this is what this one says, Play Scotland, our vision, then there is no point if we don't have that sort of aspiration, if we don't fully understand that actually that's what we need. We understand attachment and our need for that strong adult in our lives, that loving, caring adult. We now have to understand about place attachment, and that will only happen through children being allowed to have regular, frequent opportunities for free play in a natural space. You know, where they feel...
I mean, I know colleagues that we both know, like Jan White, talks about ecological identity,
Yes.
and sort of understanding that that is part of who we are. We are framed within a wider ecological system, and that's very important. And I think what's beginning to happen is that all of us, people that work with children and people that don't, are understanding that there are physical benefits, aren't there? There are educational, learning, cognitive benefits. There are what we sometimes call spiritual benefits, which are more about awe and wonder. There are regulatory benefits, all these things that come out, which seem really important. But I always get very talk to you about Scotland, because I feel that there are models that are working that aren't necessarily all top down, but there are agencies that are working collectively, which seems really, really important. And also things like, so the 3 things that come to mind that maybe you could end the interview around are things like, you've talked about councils in Edinburgh training people, like actually having someone in place to train teachers so that it's not such a huge expense, for example, or that trainings are happening in teaching colleges. And also, finally, the funding that's been doubled for childcare and how people are seeing that being a huge opportunity for outdoor learning. So do you see that happening in Scotland, and can we learn from that?
Yeah, I think we can. I think in Scotland we've been very lucky. It is a small nation. There are more people who live in Yorkshire than they do in the whole of Scotland. So I think there has to be a sense of reality here, in that the networking is much easier to happen, and the collaboration. And every single document I have shown you so far has been a collaborative effort. This has not been one person or a civil servant sitting there behind the scenes conjuring this up. This has happened through a range of processes and consultations, so that people actually are involved. And we're talking about frontline teachers, play workers, educators, outdoor educators, parents, whoever wants to. So I think this is really important, that collaboration and networking and support is how this has happened. And that's happened at a grassroots level, and it's happened at a local authority level. So an example, as you've said, has been Scottish Forestry's Forest Kindergarten approach. So Forest School is not as big in Scotland as it has grown to be in England. And I think part of that is that we have different funding systems, but because we've had different outdoor organisations working together, there has been a much greater wealth and opportunity for a range of outdoor courses. And Scottish Forestry deliberately put together the Forest Kindergarten model in response to the needs of the early years practitioners, saying, forest school's okay, but it's not quite what we need. We just need support to get out. We understand our child development. We have documentation to support that. It's the practicalities. And that this is now a national course that's available for people to access, and a number of local authorities run this. Yes, they have trainers who've been trained, college lecturers are trained, who then can deliver this to students, or if it's in a local authority, to working practitioners, which is great. And examples include Edinburgh, Western Isles, Aberdeen at the moment, you know, so really, really encouraging stuff. Oh, and Midlothian, and I think others will come on board.
Mm.
And this is all about empowering staff. It's not about people coming in to deliver on behalf. And that is always the danger when outdoor educators and outdoor people are seen as the expert who come in to advise. I think we need to do that in a very collaborative way, and not in a way that, you know, where there's an inequality of power and expertise. We all have
Mm.
expertise that work outside.
Fantastic. That sounds great. And I know there's so much information that we can draw on some of the documents that you've already shown. And I really hope that many countries grow this movement. I mean, certainly what I'm aware of is that we're currently in a crisis, aren't we? And that there's an emphasis being placed on the benefits of the outdoors, and that perhaps together collect input and support people to build their confidence to take education outdoors. And I mean,
Yes.
that's what we want. We want people to really grasp that it is possible, that they can do it, and that we can arrive at these values, these intrinsic motivations that come from this practice, as well as extrinsic successes too. Would you agree?
I would, and I think one of the things, I keep looking back and thinking, what have I learned in my life and how? And a lot of that has been through what I call lived experience. You've just got to take a big deep breath, be brave, and experiment with something, and not be afraid of making mistakes. That, you know, mistakes are, everyone knows you need to do mistakes in maths. to learn. And it's exactly the same in real life. Unless you actually get cold outside, you won't realize the need to keep warm, you know. And it sounds really obvious, but I think sometimes we've become so locked into our own little worlds in our classrooms that opening the door can seem very scary. But as the saying goes, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I'd add that it's coming from the outside.
Oh, that's a lovely way to end this interview. So thank you very much. I'm aware also there's another upcoming opportunities, both through our organisation and another organisation, Learning Through Landscapes, to um, partake in some webinars. And I think there's one coming up on the 21st of May around maths, and then for us, 25th of June, around literacy. And I'm sure people can contact both you through Creative Star, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so Creative Star to look up those dates, or through us. Thank you, Juliet. Look forward to more conversations. Keep well, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.